Revolution Radio at freedomslips.com. Hold on to the edge of your seats because you are in for quite the ride. It's time for the Granada Forum Radio Show. Right now, live on air with your host, Granada Wendy.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Granada Forum radio program. Today is the 15th of June. Oh my God, we're about halfway through. It's been going fast, to say the least. This is Revolution Radio. We are the #1 commercial-free, listener-supported internet talk radio station in the world. We're located at freedomslips.com. That's freedomslips.com or freedomradio.com. Is that correct, Nick?
Revolution.radio.
I was trying to get to my.
Oh, Revolution. What'd you say?
Revolution.radio.
Yeah.
Revolution.radio. Okay, let's write this. Revolution.radio. So you can get us at revolution.radio as well, ladies and gentlemen. And so we're very happy about that. By the way, if you'd like to go to the home page and leave equivalent to a cup of coffee, we appreciate it. If you'd like to donate $100, you will receive 3,500 seeds, how to grow, plant, and start a garden and store food. So it's actually very well worth it. We'd like to thank Mr. Nighthawk for that one. We will have a guest tonight at 8 o'clock. We will have a special guest, Mr. Jordon Maxwell, will be joining us with us. And
He's
we're very
on with us
happy.
now, actually. I thought you said 7. Like, didn't you say right now?
No, 8.
Okay, well, he's actually with us right now.
Okay. Okay. Okay, Jordan. I'm going to give out Jordan's website. His website is JordonMaxwellShow.com. That's the JordonMaxwellShow.com. And go right on his, check him out and have some fun there with Jordan. We'll do some announcements.
Yes, well,
Go ahead, Jordan.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay. I have company now, and I was not expected to do the show until 8. So the reason I'm on is somebody called me. I didn't call you.
I called you, Jordan. I can let you go and call you back at 8. That would be fine.
Yeah, okay. Let's call me back at 8, and we'll talk then.
Okay, sorry about the mix-up.
Thank you, Jordan.
Right, bye-bye.
So we'll be joined with Jordan at 8 o'clock, and check out his website at JordonMaxwellShow.com. By the way, I'd like to thank my wonderful co-host, Mr. Nick Pearson.
Hey, hey.
And my wonderful producer, who we cannot live without, Mr. Richard Kane.
Hi there.
Thank you. By the way, we want to thank Mad Painter for a few weeks ago who helped us out. We want to thank you, Mad, for that one, too. And our good buddy, Bill, I know Bill's on Saturday nights on Studio B, guys. Check him out. We have to work something out to try to help him out, and I got to call in or something. I got to be part of the show, have some fun one night with him. So check out Bill Grant, and he's on from 7 to 9 on Saturday nights on Studio B here on Revolution Radio. We're going to just see a few more announcements. By the way, real quick, so the first hour we're going to do do some announcements, and then we'll just do we call our round table. We have a few things to discuss. But first is the Alternative Therapies, the 46th Annual Cancer Control, September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2018 at the Glendale Hilton Hotel. If you go to cancercontrolsociety.com, that's cancercontrolsociety.com. Their phone number is 323-663-7801. That's 323-663-7801, and that'll be at the Glendale Hilton Hotel in Glendale, California, September 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, 2018, for the 46th Annual Cancer Control Convention. We'll be there. Also, too, our good buddy who's running the, which we will be filming, and we'll be doing a live show there, at the National Health Solutions Expo, and that's at the LAX Marriott at 5855 West Century Boulevard, Los Angeles, California, 90045. Phone number for that is 562 area code. That's 562 area code 212-3479. That's 212-3479, and the area code is 562 for that. Her name is Melissa. And by the way, that's September 22nd and 23rd, later in the month, for the Natural Health Solutions Expo at the LAX Marriott. So we'll be there live and having fun there too. Okay. First, oh, by the way, I want to give a few websites. I definitely want to mention George Webb. George Webb is doing a fantastic job, and check out his website because very knowledgeable, especially about the 500 pages, even though it's like a couple thousand pages or something like that. But check out georgewebb.com. Check out InfoWars. Check out AlexJonesInfoWars.com. Definitely check out Carrie Cassidy at projectcamelot.org. That's projectcamelot.org. Check out my good buddy John Severin, good guy. John is I believe it's drjradiolive.com. That's drjradiolive.com. Check him out. Also, too, Secure Team always has a good website, secureteam.com. Also, too, our good buddy Edward Griffin, we had on a couple weeks ago, realityzone.com. That's realityzone.com for his. Check him out. Also, too, Crowdsource the Truth, and that's Jason Goodman. You can't go wrong with Jason. That's crowdsourcethetruth.com. All kinds of good stuff coming there. Also, too, our good people at Ola Lola at drinkyourvitamins.com. Drinkyourvitamins.com. Can't say enough about those wonderful people. Get him back on. He's been doing some health shows. And that's drinkyourvitamins.com for Ola Lola. Check their website. Absolutely good stuff there. To see if so I need a few websites and stuff. Also, too, we're going to bring on some and we're going to put some more phone calls in. I know we're going to have Deborah next month, but I'm going to put a couple other phone calls into some special guests and see if we get back some information on them. So that'll be fun. So we're going to definitely on July and August we will pack it in and make sure that we bring on some good people and some more information for you, ladies and gentlemen, out there listening to us tonight on Friday night. By the way, in Southern California, the last couple of days, they've definitely chemmed us in Los Angeles, San Fernando Valley heavily. So big-time chemtrails in the valley, dude. That's the way it goes. Nick, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I think we're going to let John do a first announcement, and then we'll take it from there.
All right, let's go for it.
Okay, John, we're going to let you speak first.
Okay, thank you, Wendy and Nick. As you know, this week on June 12th, Singapore time, a summit was held between Kim Jong-un and President Donald Trump. And overall, it seemed as if things went exceedingly well. I could not believe how well they, at least in public, appeared with each other. In fact, I would say that Trump and Kim got along better than we do with some of our so-called close European adversaries north of our border, for example. But I felt that it went very well. But a lot of people are not aware that it almost fell through, and it didn't almost fall through because of President Trump's attitude, but rather those of some of his cabinet members and closest key advisors. I would say, if I were to take a guess, and I can't make an absolute statement, but in all probability, his national security advisor, John R. Bolton, when he made that statement with demands to North Korea that there could not be a summit until North Korea had completely denuclearized, that in itself led to the almost setback for the forthcoming summit, followed by a rather irresponsible statement made by Vice President Mike Pence. And of course, on the other side, you had a Stalinist who had worked herself up into the Kim regime, who was very glad to take aware of the opportunity to come back at Pence, so that the summit was almost canceled. And you have to do a lot of research to find out what these people's motives are. For example, I found out that this particular North Korean woman was the adopted daughter of one of the most high-ranking officials, sort of like the premier or vice president of North Korea at one time, but that he had extremely strong Stalinist leanings. And so apparently a year ago, or actually 2 years ago, there was an attempt to overthrow Kim Jong-un, and I think she was involved with that, but has been able to stay in office. On the other side, we find out more about John Bolton. He allegedly was the mastermind behind the plot to start the so-called Iraq War in the Middle East during the second Bush administration. He sort of kept a low profile, but he was the one that supposedly was responsible for putting out the false information related to nuclear components being brought into Iraq in the vicinity of Baghdad, which was the main reason for us going into and invading Iraq. Furthermore, he is the same individual who not so long ago made statements to basically bomb Iran. And for an individual to make such irresponsible statements and then end up being the president's closest advisor, it's hard to imagine. But undoubtedly some very trusting individuals to the president were very influential in putting John Bolton in the position. And I don't want to even get into his personal life, but this gives you a little background as to what has been going on. As you can imagine, the president had not slept for about 24 hours because he was on steroids, just going to and from the summit in Singapore. Some people were criticizing him for saluting a North Korean officer, but all they showed on TV, for example, was one brief clip of him saluting the officer. What you did not see beforehand was the officer saluting him and then putting out his hand to shake. And the president at that moment was saluting, and then he was going to drop his hand to shake the general's hand as well. But it's interesting how information can be distorted as simple as that. And so everything seemed to go pretty well. But what concerns me, Wendy and Nick and everyone listening, is that if you have individuals like John R. Bolton, National Security Advisor, and Vice President Mike Pence, who basically would rather have a war with North Korea, apparently, it's sort of scary in a way. And you have to ask yourself, how sincere are people like Mike Pompeo, the new Secretary of State, in working out this agreement? You have to sort of look at it from the other side to some extent. But Chairman Kim has apparently been showing very good will, and I'm not a person to give out compliments lightly. If you followed my research on Kim and North Korea for the past 5 years. So it's a very difficult situation. Meanwhile, there's the possibility that President Bashar Assad of Damascus may be going to Pyongyang very soon to meet with Kim Jong-un, and of course he will try to downplay the validity of President Trump. He will undoubtedly mention some of the same statements made by the Iranian president, that the United States can break an agreement in a relatively short period of time. And of course, he has other ulterior motives for going, such as picking up more information related to missile and nuclear technology for the future. And this bothers me a little bit.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, John. Considering all the stuff that's been going on, what do you think about how the media has been portraying this in the United States? Because it doesn't seem that Donald Trump can even breathe without the media going out there. Donald Trump is now contributing to the climate change problem by exhaling CO2. That's kind of their attitude. So he gets this historic summit with Kim Jong-un, and basically puts an entire war on hold. In the media, of course, they try to frame it as, God, nothing came out of this.
Right.
And
well,
you know,
at
so
least no thermonuclear war came out of it.
yeah, well, he leaves the G7 summit because basically things were just not going America's way, and he's not one to be afraid to leave the table when negotiations aren't quite going the way he wants them to. So, instead of focusing on the other world leaders, what's your opinion about how the media has been treating this?
Well, Nick, when the actual coverage was being given of the summit, there was very little hostile information going out by any of the networks that were carrying the summit. But as you pointed out, as soon as they had an opportunity to get away from the live telecast, that's when the derogatory statements were fabricated and released to the American public. By the way, very few people know this, but a far greater contributor than carbon dioxide is water vapor. Now, do the environmentalists like Jerry Brown, want to dry up the planet so that we will not have any heat absorbed in our atmosphere?
Well, maybe he wants to make the rest of the country look like Southern California.
Oh, I know. God, it's unbelievable.
Which, by the way, if this law gets passed, you're not going to be allowed to do your laundry and drink water on the same day.
I thought it was
he's absolutely, the man is insane. They're absolutely insane.
Right. And what's ironic, he made the statement just after he was fairly confident that Gavin Newsom won the primary election, and possibly the forthcoming general election.
Yeah. Well, no, I can almost tell you for a fact, just after dealing with California politics for so many years, I just hope that people in California get used to this, Governor Gavin Newsom, because that's what you're going to get. And that guy is absolutely nuts. I mean, if they thought Jerry Brown was kind of nuts because, after he was governor back in the 70s and ruined everything in California.
Oh, God. Horror stories.
Yeah, and with the destruction that he did over the last, 8 years?
8 years.
12 years?
Yeah, 8 years. Yeah, it's horrible.
Gavin Newsom is going to destroy California.
Well, he made a head start. Look at Oroville Dam. He was responsible for the land and water resources in California and overseeing Oroville Dam's maintenance, and it was neglected so badly that we almost saw the whole thing burst and have the worst flood in California's history, killing thousands, if not millions of people. But, of course, the news media has covered that up exceedingly well.
You can't expect the news media, especially in California, of all places. I mean, we already know the news media lies like crazy. I mean, the only reason to watch it in Los Angeles is because the weather girls here are really good looking. But outside of that, there's no reason to watch the news here at all because they won't report on anything.
Yeah. Is Jackie ever coming back? But go ahead.
Who?
Oh, Jackie Johnson, one of the weather.
Oh, I really wish, but right now on Channel 11, Maria Caban is the weather girl, and I'm perfectly fine with that.
Okay.
I actually live stream Good Day LA in Wisconsin just to watch the weather reports in Southern California. So that's all right with me. But
okay.
But
food for thought. There you go.
You can't. Well, hey, man, I'm not old yet.
There you go. But, I'm so glad they have pinups still. There you go. There you go. Okay, we're moving right along. There you go. That's nice though. That's good though.
But again, we get back to the mainstream.
Was I evasive on North Korea? I'm very concerned that unless the president keeps a very close eye on everything himself, that his understudies will take advantage of the opportunity, and as a result, things could break down. I'm more concerned about Washington at this moment than I am about Pyongyang. Now, another thing that I think is very important, very crucial, and no one's brought this up at all, there are many starving people in North Korea. There should be means to make humanitarian shipments of the kind of food they eat sent over there.
Okay.
So that that nation can become functional enough to carry out its denuclearization program.
But here's the question then: how do you propose that happens?
Well, there's going to have to be some changes or modifications made in the UN sanctions program that allow for humanitarian.
Okay, you already lost me right there because you already went right to the UN.
Yes.
I don't think the UN should be involved in anything. I absolutely despise the UN. They should not even exist as far as I'm concerned. Because immediately once you bring the UN into something, it's going to start costing taxpayers money for an issue that has nothing to do with us. I mean, if people want to make charitable contributions to North Korea on their own or put together an organization that's going to, bring shipments of food and supplies and whatever over to North Korea, that's fine. Let them do it on their own. Don't force it on people that you now have to contribute to this. And that's what the United Nations is, because the U.S. pays to be in the United Nations. I don't want my money to be going to that.
Absolutely, sure. I agree with you on that one, Nick.
Yeah,
totally.
And moreover, it's up to the people of North Korea to break free from their own chains of brainwashing and overthrow a government that's basically been torturing them for like 50 years or 60 years now.
And I think isn't South Korea though trying? But isn't South Korea trying to give them some aid? I hate to say this, they're giving them food.
They've been trying to reunify the Korean Peninsula for years.
Right, but one of the things is that one of the good things is that they've been trying to give food.
Well, yeah, and again, that's up to South Korea to take.
Absolutely, right. Absolutely.
But you can't put a gun to people's head and go, okay, we're taking your money and taxes, and regardless of what you want, we're going to spend it the way we want, which is what our government does now. And I'm completely against that. I'm against forced foreign aid by our government altogether.
Yeah.
Okay. We do not need to be. We're $21 trillion in debt.
Obama.
Yeah, on the books. Okay, That's just what we have on the books. We don't need to be giving our money away to anybody right now.
Right.
I know we need to take care of things here, and I agree with you on that one. I really do. I do.
Well, Wendy and Nick, there were two things I wanted to just share quickly related to our discussion. One related to the UN and the other to John Bolton. When I just turned 18, I had an opportunity to visit the UN in the National Security Council in session, and afterwards I had an opportunity to take the so-called guided tour, and our tour happened to be an Irish national, and then very confidently after they showed us this short film of a plebiscite sponsored by the UN in Equatorial Africa along the Gold Coast, which they thought was very impressive. She said in a rather boastful manner, the next thing we're going to tackle, folks, is the Alaskan situation. And I'm saying to myself, what is the problem with Alaska? Well, she then went on to say, we're contemplating determining whether or not Alaska should revert to the former Soviet Union or Russia, or if it should become a neutral entity unto itself or become part of the United States. Well, shortly thereafter, fortunately, it became the 49th state. But my eyes were really open to that organization, which is basically the most subversive organization I have ever encountered in the entire world. The second thing I wanted to mention...
Well, hold on. One thing, John. I think it's really telling that back in Obama's era there, he actually gave away part of Alaska to the Soviet Union, or to Russia.
Right.
Anyway.
Yeah. And in the Congress and the Senate, and there was no discussion. This is something, too, that is absolutely appalling what Obama's done.
Yes.
And the mainstream media doesn't touch it with the 10-foot pole.
Yeah. Yeah, there was one dedicated patriot out here in Southern California who tried to warn people that was eventually going to happen when you had a weak leader in America. The other thing I wanted to mention, you mentioned the word, or pretty close to it, regime change. Now, you have to be very careful. If Kim Jong-un's regime were to change, in all probability, it would become a Stalinist military regime, which would be far more hostile than what Kim currently has in Pyongyang. Secondly, you also need to understand that John Bolton is a strong advocate of regime change, and he has strongly supported a group of Iranians which are not necessarily the nicest people for a regime change. They happen to be Marxists, and they have been responsible for terrorist operations that have killed many Americans, especially soldiers in the Middle East. And for some reason, because he supports the regime change, then it's okay. But you have to be very careful about hot-headed individuals like this who don't study things in depth before they have things carried out. When chicken hawks like that have so much influence, so many of our finest young men and women go off to die in God-forsaken places to carry out those policies. But the American people don't seem to get that.
Well, I think part of the problem with John Bolton is that some people seem to forget who he is. He's a war hawk from way back in the Bush era, and you know he's like John McCain. He's always advocated, let's go to war with everybody, and you know you can't keep doing it. And you know John McCain, I put my hand over my heart, and I hope that guy dies every day, but he doesn't. He just seems to keep hanging on. But John Bolton is from that whole establishment. He's part of the deep, the deep state that and the swamp that Donald Trump was talking about getting rid of.
Yeah,
and for some reason, I'm still trying to figure out how somebody convinced Donald Trump to actually appoint that guy to anything at this point, because he's like one of the last guys you want in there to do. I mean, I'm not saying the guy is stupid. I mean, he's very intelligent. I've listened to the guy. I've read some of the stuff that he's written. He's a very smart guy, but he is an establishment war hawk, and he's like part of the Project for a New American Century. If anybody's ever read that, and
man.
Yeah, and he simply advocates going to war to keep the economy going. That's the whole problem with the military-industrial complex. Is that's the only way that they can envision our economy maintaining itself. They don't envision it with industry, not military industry, but just industry and innovation and entrepreneurship. That's the thing I think that drives them nuts with Donald Trump, because he does. He's almost exactly the opposite of it. And, he knows how to sit down at the negotiation table and play hardball if he has to. And
yes. Can you imagine Hillary Rodham Clinton negotiating with Kim in Singapore?
Oh my God, she'd give away the entire country in a heartbeat.
Or having thermonuclear war.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, you either give me $1 billion to the Clinton Foundation, or I'm going to nuke your country. That's her negotiation strategy. I mean, I can't even imagine what happened with Haiti when they stole $5 billion from them to rebuild their country, and then they tried to blame it on everybody else. And meanwhile, the Haitians are still living in a hole after the devastation that earthquake caused. Not God forbid, all the hurricanes that happened down there. It's like, meanwhile, her and rapist Bill Clinton are sitting there pretty sitting on hundreds of millions of dollars, getting their just rewards from the establishment that put them where they were in the first place.
Yes. Oh, by the way, Wendy and Nick, I've got one quick announcement for you. If you want to hear Deborah Tavares every week, she comes on Dr. Deagle's program at 2 p.m. on Monday, and I come on his program 2 p.m. on Tuesday. And that's Deagle-network.com. Deagle-network.com. And you can hear it live or hear the archives.
And also, Deborah Tavares' website is www.stopthecrime.net. That's www.stopthecrime.net for Deborah Tavares. Her website is absolutely phenomenal. We can't say enough about her. I forgot to mention her, but
you must read that material. Yes.
Yeah. So we're gonna move on a little bit now. Nick, about the five. Now, I do believe, I don't know if Bob's listening, but the 500 pages that the Inspector General. That's not them all. There's thousands of pages, and they only released 500, but there's like thousands.
Oh yeah, and what they've released, I was reading some copy on it a little bit earlier and listening to some of the reports on it.
Yeah.
And the media is trying to spin it like, oh, the FBI didn't do anything all that wrong. The new FBI director is saying like, okay, there were just some errors in judgment, and some people strayed away from policy, and it's all really good, but nothing really wrong happened. And I'm like, oh God, help me! Are you kidding me? If you read this thing, it reads like a crime sheet. I mean, I swear to God, it's the FBI rap sheet on their own people. And the fact that they're not going to bother to prosecute any of these people, I mean, I swear to God, don't hold your breath. Nobody's going to jail over this. Comey is not going to get indicted over this, and it just reads like a laundry list of how badly can we screw up everything. The FBI has become a joke. It's an absolute joke at this point.
And Nick, that one of the first things is unbelievable that Comey did not have the authority to say that they weren't going to prosecute her.
Didn't, but he
wasn't Attorney General. That was Loretta Lynch.
No, his responsibility is to bring forth the evidence that they have and give it to the Attorney General, and they're going to decide whether to prosecute. I mean, it's the same thing with the police department, though. Here, in whatever locality you may happen to be in, that they can advise whether or not they're going to press charges, and sometimes they don't. But the FBI, when they read out a laundry list of crimes that were committed, that, some guy on a submarine took some pictures and he spent 5 years in prison.
Right.
Because some of those pictures were considered classified information. Hillary Clinton's got
tens of thousands of emails. She broke protocol because you cannot have your own server. You have to go through a certain server. I mean, are you kidding me? And then she sold 20% to to the Russians' uranium mine. That's not calling the Clinton Foundation crimes.
Well, she mishandled classified information in a way that was so egregious. She should have been
horribly
for the rest of her life. And yet James Comey's out there going like, yeah, we're not going to prosecute her. Now the IG report comes out. The FBI, a couple of the agents were caught saying like, we're going to make sure Donald Trump does not become president.
I mean, that's unbelievable. It's like a whole coup d'etat, keeping the American people deaf, dumb, and blind. It's beyond words, Nick.
It was attempted, but they didn't succeed at it, which is why they're still a year and a half later. They're still crying in the streets about it. But the fact of the matter that there is nobody being indicted, nobody being prosecuted, yet Mueller gets Paul Manafort put in jail. I mean, granted, the guy's a crook. He screwed up, and he should be he should be tried for what he did. But it had nothing to do with the Russian collusion thing. Yet, but
Mueller still gets to keep investigating on and on and on, pissing away millions of our tax dollars on an investigation that's not going to be going anywhere. It's not going to find the evidence that was what he was supposed to be looking for in the first place, because it doesn't exist.
No,
that's right. They had to go back 12 years on Manafort to get the information.
12 years. I mean, this is just outrageous.
Somebody remind me again, what year was it that Donald Trump was running for president? How many years ago was that? I don't believe it was 12 years ago.
Listen to me. Explain to me this. Since the Inspector General report has come out, and that's only the 500 pages, and I forgot what Bob said, because Bob's listening, how many exact pages there are in the Inspector, just thousands.
Yeah.
That haven't been released yet. I know that Donald Trump is thinking about releasing it, and I pray to God that the president does release it. But the fact of the matter is there is no Russian collusion. Who is in charge of stopping Mueller now? Well, to say, you're on a runaway freight train, you're done.
Well, here's the thing, too, though. Every time they find something about any Russian involvement whatsoever, it always points back to Hillary Clinton.
Right.
And for some reason, nobody will press charges against her and put her in prison. And you got to be kidding me. Okay, so they're going after Paul Manafort. They got, what was the guy's name, the first one that they busted, that they were going to prosecute? Doesn't matter. But they're going after, like, all these peripheral players in the game.
Are you talking about Flynn?
Flynn, that's the guy. Okay.
Flynn.
And, they're going after all these peripheral players who had really not all that much to do with the involvement. I know that Manafort was Donald Trump's campaign chief and all of that, but they never nailed him for Russian collusion. They nailed him for a bunch of financial stuff that happened over a dozen years ago. And, Flynn, he just balked because he didn't want his family to become bankrupt and living on the street. And yet James Comey can get on national television and lay out every single crime that Hillary did, and there's not one single indictment. Jeff Sessions should be run out of town on a rail for that one, for not picking that one up.
Well, how about Rosenstein?
Rosenstein, too. Yeah, no kidding.
And Rosenstein and Loretta Lynch, and you're talking Eric Holder, and you're talking Bill Clinton for obstructing justice on the tarmac with the Attorney General at the time. I mean, there's a couple, there's McCabe, and George Webb has got all these people connected the dots. I mean, the Awan brothers, which they haven't, that's not in the 500 pages, but it must be in the main one. But there's so many people involved, it's beyond words.
Yes.
Trump has to make sure these people are prosecuted, because if he doesn't prosecute these people, this will leave a standard that anybody that face it, the coup d'etats, the New World Order, the people who have money, or anybody who wants to cause trouble in America, that they'll never be prosecuted for anything, and they can get away with anything. And once that happens, Nick, you have runaway freight trains.
Yeah, it'll set a precedent that we might not be able to crawl out from under. But,
and I don't see us making it. If they have to prosecute.
Donald Trump can't prosecute himself. He's got to leave that up to the Attorney General. What he's got to do is he's got to get rid of Rosenstein. He's got to get rid of Jeff Sessions, because you want to talk about two useless turds in a toilet bowl. They're the ones that you keep flushing, and they just won't go down for some reason. And he's got to get somebody in there who's going to do something about this and really just turn the screws on it. For all intent and purposes, I don't know Donald Trump's mind. I was never involved with that guy when he was building casinos and building high rises in New York and all of that. I never met the guy. I don't know anything about him, but I've been paying attention to him quite a bit since he became president, and he might be playing a way different game that we're even aware of. And hopefully, there's going to be a payoff, because if there isn't, if Hillary Clinton doesn't get prosecuted, if all these people on both the Republicans and the Democrat side never get prosecuted, people are going to just sit back for a minute and, regardless of what the political class in America thinks of, Joe Mechanic and whatever, we're not stupid. Okay, we're going to sit back and go, really, we can get away with just about anything as long as we get elected to office.
Right, and no one goes to jail. This thing, unbelievable.
How many crooks do you think are going to be running for office after that?
Oh, God. Well, real quick, too.
Joe the plumber doesn't know everything. In all probability, there are things that Trump is aware of that we are not. I think he's
sure
a good poker
He has
player.
access, honey. He has access.
I don't know what he knows. I don't know his mind. But I'm saying, if somebody doesn't start going to jail, if somebody doesn't start getting indicted, a lot of the people back from previous administrations, I'm not talking just about Obama, I'm talking about both Bushes, Clinton, Reagan, Jimmy Carter, and keep on going back as much as you want to, whoever's still alive. If somebody doesn't start going to prison, people are gonna stand up and go like, wait a minute. I get busted for walking across the street in the wrong place.
Right.
And these people
I don't have a dog license.
Yeah, these people are committing murder. These people are committing all kinds of egregious crimes regarding classified information, and nobody will touch them. Okay, the rule of law, they're going to consider the rule of law over.
Yeah.
But let's recap something that happened this week. As soon as Trump got back from Singapore, the statement was released, and Trump came out with a statement that is unlike any statement that he has said in the past. He is now going on the offensive. I don't know if you've picked that up, folks, but I have.
Well, good.
Oh, yeah.
Because I look at it this way: prosecute the whole thing. I think it was George Webb that gave. I'm pretty sure George Webb and Jason Goodman that they gave the FBI all this evidence against the Iwan brothers and all these people, Debbie Wasserman Schultz, the whole thing, and John Podesta. Oh my God, and how many others, and Uma Abedin, and Weiner only got a slap on the wrist compared to the charges and the crimes that this man has really committed. That stuff that has not come out, though it has come out as far as some media has talked about. There is the trafficking of children, trafficking of people around the world, and trafficking of horrible things going on. I mean, that has come to more of a forefront.
Yeah.
But then, pedophilia. But they really need to go after some of these people that have done horrendous crimes against America. And I just pray to God that Trump does it, because he is. Let me tell you something. He's going to win 4 more years, because I'm going to tell you something. If you even got a half a brain, there's no way, because they even screwed Bernie Sanders this last week by saying he couldn't run as a Democrat, and they stole. Now, Bernie raised $216 million. He bought himself a 3rd house on Lake Champlain. But I heard through the grapevine that the Hillary found Clintons, they actually stole that money, and Bernie never said a word. He just took his house and a few million, whatever. But they have now screwed Bernie out of running for another Democrat. Not that I think Bernie's great. I mean, he's a Marxist. But the fact that the New World Order, the people of powers that be, they have now even screwed Bernie even worse. And he had at least people like voted for Bernie because they thought he was just a nice guy. I mean, I can't go there, but
he was. Here's what my take on Bernie Sanders was. He was kind of the socialist version of what Ron Paul was. See, Ron Paul was the liberty guy. He's the guy that set the bar for me for what a politician should be. Right. I mean, everything about that guy I agreed with. I mean, just about. I was like 96 to 98% and agreed with everything that Ron Paul said. He set the bar. Bernie Sanders, if you're a Marxist, if you're a communist or a socialist, he's your Ron Paul guy. And let's just ignore the fact that he has 3 houses that are getting paid for by somebody else. So,
right. And he's going to leave money to his grandchildren, and that's right. But the fact that that the Democratic Party has now screwed him, but yet he still again did not speak out against them, which I thought, oh my God, how could you not after what they've just done to you again? He didn't say a word. But I see that Donald Trump is going to go ahead.
Oh, you have to remember, Wendy, that Bernie Sanders is really not a registered Democrat. He is an independent who decided to run in the Democratic primary. Okay.
Well, I'll tell you something. I believe that Donald Trump will win 4 years from now, just for the fact that people, if you believe in the Second Amendment, if you believe, especially now what's going on in England with Tony Robinson with the free speech. We'll talk about this, the free speech thing. I mean, it's almost like if these people didn't get prosecuted and Donald Trump did not win 4 years from now, I really hate to see this because they would literally be pounding on people's doors, and I would be one of them because we're speaking out against the tyranny.
Well, here's the thing with Robinson, and I mean, I like the guy. I thought he's great. I thought he was, an English patriot speaking out in defense of his own country. But what I think the British people don't seem to realize is they don't have free speech. Regardless of what the Magna Carta may have said, I don't think that part was in it. And the British people are still subjects of the crown. They are not the way American citizens were written into the Constitution as being sovereign unto ourselves. We are the sovereigns. Our government government works for us.
They are subjects.
British people are subjects. That's why I always cracked up listening to Piers Morgan piss and moan about America's right to the Second Amendment, which was enumerated in the Constitution, not granted by the Constitution the way that the liberals interpret it. And I have said this time and time again, I am not going to be lectured about my freedoms by somebody who is a subject to a crown, because they are not free people. They have no idea what it means. And Robinson, I mean, I take my hat off to the guy. I mean, I really do. I think the guy's great. But I think his being jailed was a real wake-up call to the people in Britain to show them, hey, guess what? You do not have the right to have your freedom of speech if it goes against the agenda of the crown and the globalists, because they're basically one and the same at this point.
And I would agree with what you just said, but I think it was also the way it was handled. Within so many hours, they tried him. He wasn't even given really a lawyer, they convicted him and threw him in. And now they told the people, because I heard this on Alex Jones, Infowars.com. That's okay, but Nick, real quick. They threatened them. They threatened the people. Said if you don't stop protesting, we're going to throw him in a maximum security Muslim jail. I mean, unbelievable. I'm thinking, oh my God.
Here's how they justified the very quickness of it. They said he was already in violation of a previous crime that he committed that he was out on parole for. So once they dragged him in, they said, okay, you're in violation of your parole or probation or whichever it was. And they said, okay, you're gonna serve out the sentence that was imposed on you in the first time. So he was there, sentenced, and put in prison. Then they sent him to a prison that was 71% Muslim.
All right.
There was an imam who put a hit out on the guy. And the last report that I read about him was he is now in solitary confinement.
For his own protection, probably.
Yeah, well, that's what they'll tell you. But I have a feeling is the fact that they don't want Tommy Robinson killed because he will become a martyr.
Yes.
And they don't want that because a martyr, I guarantee you, a martyr is way more powerful than their press will ever be.
Yeah.
So
one thing you need to understand about the government in London, Stan, it is predominantly Muslim. The mayor is a Muslim. The jurisprudence branch of the government is controlled by now Muslims, not Christians or Jews, and so is there any reason to doubt that he was arrested because he spoke out about what the Muslims are doing?
None at all. That's what he was being arrested for in the first place. The last time he got busted. Yeah. They want people who are compliant and
with Sharia.
ignore the agenda that's going across Europe. And I think that England is being really pushed hard at this point because they had the Brexit vote and they're about to get out of the EU.
Well, and also too, I think this is a wake-up call for people who live in the country of England that they would not want any more cities like London to fall. Because this is going to come to everyone's front door.
Yeah, but remember back some years ago when we had on the guy from Sweden.
Oh yes, yeah.
And we were talking about, and now Sweden is like completely overrun. They're starting. The Swedes are starting to get bent out of shape about what's going on with the crime.
Well, I think that's because of Italy. I think Italy has stood up, Nick, and they don't want any more refugees. Right. They've got people on the streets. They've got unemployment. They said the young people don't have any jobs, and Italy is in somewhat of a dire state. And they basically said we're done.
Yeah, but remember what the guy said.
But it doesn't get put up to that in the mainstream media.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Remember what that guy from Sweden said when I kept asking him. It's like, why doesn't anybody stand up? And he's like, because they won't. They just won't. They're passive about it. They're going to accept it. Britain did the same thing. The Brits did the same thing for a long, long time. And yet now they're starting to see the repercussions of sitting on your ass and not paying attention to what's going on. Oh, we welcome everybody. Oh, you just killed my sister and raped her like 60 times before you did it? Maybe this isn't such a good idea.
But there was another aspect of his conversation, Nick, that we must not overlook, and that is that Sweden has no Second Amendment, as is true for practically all of Europe except Switzerland.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, for the Swiss Guard. Yeah, absolutely.
And then why do you think they're trying to get rid of it here in the U.S.?
Oh, God, are you kidding me?
Why do you think that Dianne Feinstein's out there every day saying, this gun looks scary, we have to get rid of it?
Oh, I know. It's just it's unbelievable.
She's the same idiot that got up in front of a crowd pushing anti-gun agenda to the media, and she stood up in front of a bunch of reporters with an AK-47, with a drum magazine loaded into it, her finger on the trigger, and pointed the barrel at the reporters, and nobody blinked. And I was just like going, is anybody else seeing the same thing I am? You're going to tell me that moron is going to tell me about my Second Amendment rights when she can't even get basic gun safety correct?
Yeah.
I mean, you got to be kidding me. And and California has got to be one of the worst states in the country, maybe except New York, as far as guns go. If we want to get onto that subject, I have guns now that one of the reasons I don't live in California anymore is because I could get arrested for some of the stuff I have in California. Wisconsin, I'm good to go. They love me there. I've made so many of the friends there who are just like on board with me. It's ridiculous as far as the Second Amendment goes. But, and the thing is that I meet a lot of people in California who feel the same way as I do, but they're so outnumbered by the liberals, it's beyond stupid.
We're going to the break, guys. We did an hour already. We'll call Jordan and get him on, and we'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. We've got Jordon Maxwell coming on with us within a very short time. Hold on. Don't go anywhere.
See you in a few minutes.
You're listening to Revolution Radio, freedomslips.com, 100% listener-supported radio, and now we return you to your host.
Welcome back to the Granada Forum radio program, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for coming back from the break. We have a wonderful guest tonight for the next hour, Mr. Jordon Maxwell. His website is the JordonMaxwellShow.com. That's the JordonMaxwellShow.com. Jordan, are you there?
Yes, I am. Not sure if I'm all here, but I'm here. Thank you.
Hey, we want to give you carte blanche, so anything you would like to talk about, please, no problem.
Well, I know that you were probably talking a lot about the presidential summit, and I'm not interested in that kind of stuff. I don't even watch news. I don't even care who talks to who. I found out a long time ago that when I talk to other people, I usually end up talking to myself, and so that's why today I do a lot of talking to myself. I don't even care what's going on in the world scene, because this particular summit was, in my opinion, after watching it for a few minutes, was nothing more than a photo op, just an opportunity to have some pictures taken with each other and make the world feel better about the nuclear threat. No, he's going to reverse himself, and he's not going to be this tyrant and blow up the world like we all thought. So everybody's shaking hands and smiling and waving at everyone. So we all feel much better about this now. But as far as I'm concerned, it was just a photo op. I doubt they even said much of anything to each other. And whatever it was that they said, the masters of this world don't care, because it's just a function of the government to look like they're going over and doing something and trying to negotiate. So I don't consider it to be a very important event at all. As a matter of fact, I really can't find too much that is going on a world scene that I consider to be of any real value anyway. It's just all a bunch of show. The whole thing is Hollywood. It's a motion picture, a production, or a TV show. And all I know is what I'm seeing in America and around the world is the bottom line on corruption and stupidity and ignorance and all the rest of it. I consider that the U.S. is the most corrupt place on the earth. Lies, deception, criminality. So it's very difficult to take seriously anything you see happening in the news, happening anywhere in the world, because the whole world is following America. We just get there first, and everybody follows us. And so I'm not saying that Trump is not of any importance. I kind of like Donald Trump a little bit from the very beginning, because he wasn't a team player. But at this point, I consider politics, especially international politics, to be unimportant. It's all just a show. And so that's all I want to say about the summit and about politics in general. I'm more interested in the things that I'm fascinated by right now. I've been talking with some time with Joseph Farrell, and I love listening to Peter Levenda, because these guys are talking about things which are important, which are legitimately important to the world of mankind. But most people don't even know what they're talking about. But I see some very serious things slowly but surely beginning to appear on the horizon in America that looks very scary to me. And
can I ask you a question real quick?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Given like past histories of other civilizations that have come and fallen before us, are we going down the same path as, like, say, Rome or, any of or Babylon or any of the other ones that have risen and fallen before us?
I would say absolutely 100% totally yes. No doubts about it, period. History repeats itself, and it's repeating itself now. Our great republic, Rome started off as a great republic and ended up a democracy, where we started off as a great republic, and because of that we grew and became strong and healthy and big, and then we got ripped off by the communists back in the 1840s, 1848, 1850. Then comes the Civil War to destroy our republic, which it did. And then after the Civil War in the 1870s, now they've destroyed the country. Now they can rework the government and start all over again and make it a corporation. And now we today are a corporation, and our people are no longer Americans. We are all corporate democracy. There's a people's democracy and a corporate democracy, and nobody seems to understand what a corporate democracy is. But that's what we are, and from a corporate democracy, we are now going downhill, and ultimately we will eventually be gone off the earth. As far as I'm concerned, the U.S. is pretty much over. It's pretty much true. And
how long do you think we have for the illusion to keep up before everybody finally figures it out?
I wouldn't be a bit surprised if by 2020, a couple of years from now, I think, if I'm not mistaken, that most people in America, even those who don't think and don't read and don't know from nothing, I think that even the most ignorant and ill-informed among the Americans today pretty much know that things aren't the way they used to be. We used to have a semblance of freedom and liberty and justice, and America was a fun place. It was a really nice place for the most part to live. While today there is no justice, there is no law. That's a very important point, I think, that needs to be made, is that in America today there is actually, in fact, there is no law. I remember reading many years ago in the book of Revelation in the Bible, it talks about the last book of the Bible. It talks about the coming times in which the world will be living in what the Bible call how does it say it? The man of lawlessness will show himself. And so we are today, in fact, living in the time of the man of lawlessness. And so I used to wonder, how in the world could America be in the time of lawlessness if we got 50 million laws and you can't even belch without having broken some kind of a law, state and county and city. And so I wonder, how in the world could we be living in a country with so many laws and be called, living under the man of lawlessness? Well, now I know. Now I understand. The understanding is simple. We in America have no actual laws. Therefore, we are lawlessness. There's lawlessness everywhere. Because if you can take a law book into a court and show the court and the judge and the jury what the law book says, you will find the judge could not care less what the law says.
Right.
And a cop on the beat, when a cop stops you and the police stop you in traffic or whatever, when he stops you, he does not care, period, about what the law says, about what the law used to mean. It doesn't matter. He's carrying a gun and he is the boss, right. Period. And whatever he says the law is, that's right. What it is.
And that was one of the things in I think it was the Irwin Schiff trial. I don't know if you're familiar with it or not.
Yeah.
When Irwin Schiff brought in the books and said, "Look, I want you to show me what the law is," and he presented them to the IRS, and the judge stated out flatly, "I will not allow the law in my courtroom."
That's right. That's exactly right. That was the point.
I apologize, Jordan. Go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, but that is the point I'm making. Don't bring up any law that's written down in a law book because the courts don't care. The judges don't care about all that. It's irrelevant. What is relevant today in a court is whatever the judge says it is. Whatever he thinks it is, that's what it is.
Right, and that's what I was going to say. That's what a lawyer told me one time when he asked me a question, and he said, "Do you know what the law is?" And I'm like, "Well, regarding what?" And he goes, "No, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Yeah. Do you know what the law is?" And I'm like, "Well, no." And he goes, "It's whatever the judge you're standing in front of says it is."
That's what I just said, precisely.
Yep.
And in my own case, an attorney got up opposing my attorney and opposing me, and outright, premeditatedly knowing, lied through their teeth. This attorney, I was shocked at the profoundness of how much this attorney knew, and yet he stood right there in front of a judge and said something which he knew to be a lie. And I leaned over to my attorney and I said, "I can't believe this attorney just lied through his teeth." And my attorney turned to me and said, "That's what we do." I thought that was interesting.
Yeah.
That's what we do. We just lie through our teeth. It's just a game. That's why it's on a court. It's like basketball, it's on a court. It's like tennis, it's on a court. And so we play law like we do tennis. And how do you play tennis is with a racket. That's right. And so it's a racket. It's just a game. And then
what was your court case about?
Well, I got a gag order on that, and I can't say anything.
I was just say you piqued my interest there a little bit.
Oh yeah, no, I've got one hell of a case. It's been going for 7 years. Nothing I can do about it. Nothing.
Jordan, I got a question for you.
Yep.
Though I think it is a tragedy what happened in the Irwin Schiff case because they literally sent an innocent man to jail and did not care.
Yeah, I know. That's exactly
they ruined
what
his life. Yeah. He wrote the book, The Federal Mafia. I believe you can, ladies and gentlemen, if you want to look that up on the internet, it's The Federal Mafia by Irwin Schiff. So, interesting gentleman. Very interesting. I need to get his son. His son is sometimes on Alex Jones, Irwin Schiff's son, so you can look him up. He's like an economist. He's a kind of interesting gentleman. Let me get him on our show. My question is to you, Jordan, which I think might pique a little interest. I've been trying to get Peter Levenda on my show because he specializes, because he's like one of the leading authorities on Nazi internationalists. And I heard at a conference somewhat recently that the thing that happened in Washington, D.C. when they had the UFOs in the early 50s, like 51, I think, 52.
Yeah.
They had all the UFOs going to Washington, that it was said, now I don't know if this was said during the Peter Levenda, he was on a panel, and it was said, and that's why I definitely want to get Peter on, and love to have you just host the show, because I just would like to listen, but it was said that was a victory lap because the conflict in Europe was ended, but in the sense that they lost maybe the conflict in Europe, but they did not lose the war because of what happened in Antarctica with Admiral Byrd and everything. That was a victory lap. That's why they went to Washington. That was the bell, the German bell, and some other craft. And I was wondering if you had heard that or what you might think of that.
Well, the two guys that I'm always promoting and told you maybe 100 times, there's Peter Levenda. He is sensational. Peter Levenda is very, very important to the world we live in. But equally important is Joseph Farrell.
Right.
Joseph Farrell and Peter Levenda are my two favorite heroes right now. And we know that the Nazis really did not really lose. They lost the fight, but they didn't lose the war.
Right.
But there's a interesting thing that Joseph Farrell. I talk with him sometimes. On occasions, I'll call him or he'll call me, and we chat for a while. But he mentioned something in one of his lectures that I find absolutely fascinating. As he said that and I'm not sure of the time period. I'll have to go back and listen to it again. But he was saying something like back in the 1940s or 50s that there was a Russian lady scientist, physicist or scientist in Russia, and this is during communist Russia. And she wrote an article about the world events happening at that time, and as a woman scientist in Soviet communist Russia, and she wrote an article basically saying that the United States is going to be the subject of terrorism later on in time. Not now, but later on you will find in history that America is going to come under a terrorist threat. And that terrorist threat will be a secret society of a handful of men, a secret group, and they're going to terrorize the world, but they're going to start with America. And she said, and they are extremely powerful, this particular secret society. And this Russian lady scientist said, it is estimated by her and her team doing the research that this secret society actually controls in the world today, well over 32 or 33 trillion with a T, 33 to 32 trillion dollars. So they are highly financed, extremely well heeled, and they are very well connected to all the top science in the world. And this particular secret society is not going to be Russian, Chinese, not East or West, not communist, not Nazi. This is going to be a very profoundly powerful secret society that is actually running the world, and it has anywhere from 32 to 33 trillion dollars in their pocket to do whatever they wish to do. So I think that's probably true. I mean, we have all these James Bond movies of, the Spectre and all of these motion pictures and movies about secret societies, which are so phenomenally powerful and wealthy. And Joseph Farrell seems to think that, and I think he's right. I think he's exactly right. He calls it the Nazi International. The Nazi International, implying the old Nazi operation has regathered itself and has sold off all, it confiscated the gold and all over Europe, all the famous paintings and all the most important stuff. And today, the Nazi International, as it's headquartered down in Argentina today, Argentina seems to be the headquarters now for the World Revolutionary Movement or the World Nazi Movement. And they are very well heeled. They've got the money. They've got the connections. They influence the politics all over the earth. They influence everything. And I think that that's probably true. I think because even Peter Levin talked about the same group in Argentina being absolutely the most wealthiest off the planet, incredible secret society running the world today. So all of that in consideration today, I think that that's why we in America are in so much trouble, because we not only don't even come near to having $1 trillion, we're broke. And the reason why we're broke is because the communists in America have purposely caused us to go broke. I mean, it's the way you take over a corporation and a company. If you want to really take over a big corporation like General Motors or Ford Motor Company or some big corporation, which is America is a big corporation, what you do is you don't fight it and go against it and try and fight it. It's too big. What you do is get a job there and get yourself in the department for their financial department and start making deals and spending money uselessly. And eventually, over a long period of time, you just keep spending money and giving it away and giving it away until finally one day the corporation is broke. They're busted. They're broke, and now they're in a tailspin, and they're collapsing because you have ripped them off big time. Now we finally see who the enemy really is. And so I think that's what's happened to America. We've had politicians who were members of the Communist Party today. Many of the Congress and Senate members are members of the Soviet Communist Party, and they are working there around the clock to destroy the United States of America. And they're doing a beautiful job of it. This is why they hate Trump, because he knows what's going on too. So I just watch all this stuff happening and realize it's a big show, and I'm not a part of it. You know, like George Carlin says, it's a big club that runs this world, and you ain't in it. So I sit and watch the end of the American Republic coming, and then knowing what these people already have in mind. Hollywood's been telling you what they have in mind. They are transmuting the human race. They are completely redesigning the human family. They're breaking down our culture, our morals, our ethics, our systems of government, of religion, etc. They're breaking it all down, destroying it all, and building up in the place of it. Now they're building up a transhuman society where no longer will we acting like humans any longer. We're not going to have any care about our family, about children, or your grandmother, or your family. All that stuff is over. We're now going to be robotic. We're going to have artificial intelligence, which I think is great because America doesn't have any intelligence. At least we got some artificial intelligence. Thank God we got a computer that can think for themselves.
Sorry, Jordan, but wasn't this stuff like spelled out back in the Communist Manifesto, and even a little bit earlier than that? And people still haven't really caught on to it because they're just not paying attention. Because, you know, whoever won an American Idol or whatever is so much more important. You know,
that's right. Well, you got that right. And so many people today have no idea in the world what I mean by cultural Marxism. If you understand the words cultural Marxism, that is the problem that America now is totally dying from. We are like a cancer that's 99% eaten the host. We're dying of cancer, and there's no way to turn it around because of cultural Marxism has destroyed our brains, our minds, our ability to think, our ability to reason. We are gimme, me. Everything is to take care of me. And so it's a whole cultural war that's going on to destroy the Western world. And to help that along quickly, we will bring in the Muslim card, bring that into Europe, and overrun Europe with Muslims who are mentally deranged. And now we're seeing it happening in America. So eventually, what the masters of this world, this Illuminati, $33 trillion worth of money to completely rework the whole human family. And ultimately, I think it's going to be terrible in the world that's coming. And so the only high point for me right now is the fact that I'm 78 years old and I won't be around much longer. So that's the big thing for me. I'm not going to be here much longer.
Because I got a few more years to live around here.
Yeah.
But here's another thing. Which do you think was probably more prophetic, accurate wise? Do you think it was George Orwell's 1984? Or do you think it was Aldous Huxley's Brave New World?
Brave New World. I think they're both talking about the same thing.
Right. Well, yeah.
They're both talking about the same thing. And besides, when Adolf Hitler was coming into power, Adolf Hitler, most people do not know this, Adolf Hitler himself and the Nazi Party itself used terms which were used by secret societies that only if you study for many years the terms, the words, the platforms, and the concepts and the phrases that secret societies in Europe used, the secret societies used, then when you hear those same words and terms coming out of Adolf Hitler's mouth, and you begin to see him making signs with his hands, symbols, all of this becomes very, very interesting. What's going on here? Because both Hitler, for the Nazis, or the Communist Party, or the fascist, the capitalist, Anglo-Saxon capitalist society, all of them are using the same words, the terms and symbols. With their hands, they're making symbols and terms. All of these different powerful bodies on the earth are playing by the same book. So there's something going on here far bigger than the war between Nazis and the communists and America and Russia and all that. There's something else going on, which I am fascinated about how Hollywood has been trying to show you that for years, that there's something else going on here that they haven't told you about that is so far bigger, so incredibly bigger than just the wars between nations, just between communism and capitalism or whatever, Nazism. No, there's something going on that's going to impact our whole solar system soon. We are seeing the destruction of the culture of humanity being guided into some kind of a hell that's coming. I mean, we talk about the robotics. People are being thrown out of work now and have no jobs because robots are able to do the job much better, dependable, and they don't have to feed them. And robots don't go to meetings, and so they just do what they're told to do. And so the robotics is destroying our way to even make a living. Our politicians are nothing more than bought and paid for whores, prostitutes, and God, don't get me started on the press. I like that. Yeah, I like that term, prostitutes.
Yeah. Well, here's the thing I want to ask you, since you did bring it up. Because Adolf Hitler was playing by the same rule book as everybody else, what was it that made the global elites actually bring the guy down, in your opinion?
I think he was supposed to be brought down. I think he was probably being used to destabilize the European monetary and religious powers of Europe, which have for 1,600 years has dominated Europe. And now they are bringing about a whole destabilization plan for to destabilize the whole Western civilization. That's what Hitler was doing. You know what? I've got a very big emergency that I have just seen, and I'm going to have to go. I'm seeing it in my yard. I've got an emergency I've got to take care of quickly.
Okay,
So,
Jordon, no problem. No problem. We'll get you back, handsome.
Okay.
That's Jordon Maxwell. You can check out his website, JordonMaxwellShow.com. That's JordonMaxwellShow.com.
Right.
All right,
Thank
Jordon,
you very much, and we'll talk later.
All right.
Absolutely.
Bye-bye.
How many minutes we got left in the show, guys?
We got half an hour.
Oh, half an hour. God.
Well, I'm telling you. Half an hour with Jordon Maxwell is probably like a lifetime of knowledge that the guy is going to give to you.
Right.
It's just like I'm just fascinated every time the guy speaks. I want to do is listen.
You know, Nick, I'm going to work this week to get Peter Levende. I'm going to put a few phone calls into him, and maybe into the other guy, Joseph P. Farrell. But because that's what I heard that was because of what happened in Antarctica, and but so many unbelievable things of stories. So I definitely want to track this guy down and see if he'll give us a couple series and I don't care if he does 12 parts. I mean, just even if whatever, and just pick up where he left off, and but definitely,
As far as I'm concerned, Jordon has carte blanche on the show.
Absolutely,
anytime he wants to come on,
he can host Peter, because I know that him and Peter Levende and Joseph P. Farrell that they speak.
Okay.
Yeah,
By the way,
I mean, that would Go ahead, John.
Peter Remendi might actually owe me a little bit of cash because before the Cuban Missile Crisis, he made a bet with one of his teenage peers that Kennedy would take a strong stand against Nikita Khrushchev during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And yours truly enabled JFK to make that strong stand. But I think you'll be very fascinated with Peter Remendi. I've done some research on him based on what I just said. But as you said tonight, a half hour with Maxwell Jordon, or Jordon Maxwell rather, and I will say that this was his finest hour. It was outstanding.
He's brilliant.
Oh yes, and you might notice that we don't really, when Jordan's on, I mean, I didn't mean to interrupt him because he got on and I was going to be out there, when I realized sometimes, we don't ask questions, even though it was on the tip of my tongue.
Yeah.
I just let him speak because he's steady. I think Jordon, as you know, he gets on a roll. And
I tried to
and that's when we get the good stuff out of him. So, you can't, and I know, Nick, you put one question towards him, but just, and then he starts to get into things.
Yeah, the thing with Jordon is that really is the best part of it, is when he's talking to you, the questions start really coming to your head. And I might ask a few questions, but there's probably 100 other ones that I'm waiting to ask the guy, but I don't want to interrupt him.
Yeah.
So it's like
when you have Deborah Tavares on.
Yeah, well, it's like, I'm sitting here listening to Jordon speak, and I'm going like, I got the mute button on my computer here, and I'm going like, oh yeah, nobody can hear me. Nobody can hear me. I got to turn the mic back on.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting on a thing when I heard that the thing with the UFOs over Washington, and that I think that's going to be. I think some stuff. Believe it or not, guys, and he talked about transhumanism. Definitely, he talked about transhumanism. I know Blade Runner 2 is definitely about transhumanism, big time, and I need to go back and see this.
I mean, they're talking about replacing. They're growing like human body parts in laboratories now. They're growing beef in laboratories now. So oh my God, you don't have to kill the cow to get the beef. They're growing bits and pieces. They're also starting to do. I mean, you thought the $6 Million Man was a fantasy. a great, a great TV show. I love Lee Majors and all of that, but you think that was science fiction?
No.
They're actually starting to try to do that kind of a thing.
Right.
So, it's called yesterday's science fiction is today's science fact.
Right.
So,
and yeah, you're right. And you're right, Nick. I think the technology, also too, the artificial intelligence, and Nick, and just for us, are listening to, that Alex had some guy, Owen Schroyer had somebody on about a guy who has a new site that you can do what you want on and not be censored, and it's called Open Minds, or
I don't know.
I have to get the website where the website to this, but that it won't be censored. You won't be kicked off, and
is it a social media site?
Yeah, social media site, and because they mentioned Periscope, they mentioned Skyping in, and they said and what's gone on, and so his it sounded to me his network was exactly that. So something we have to check out too. But
there's more than a few of those popping up because after Mark Zuckerberg's testimony in front of Congress,
right,
that and he basically reneged on everything he told Congress he was going to do. And
right.
He's still selling.
He should be in jail because he got medical records off of people.
Yeah.
Medical records.
Yeah, and so did Twitter.
Thousands, millions.
Selling your stuff too, and they're censoring
right.
everybody there. So I mean, the two biggest social media sites out there are basically stealing your information if you're stupid enough to provide it to them, and provide them honest information, even if you're not giving them everything else. They're still stealing all your information and selling it off. And, but there are other ones. I mean, I've on a couple of different ones that are not so big, besides Facebook. I got kicked off of Twitter.
Right.
But it's like, why would you, if you knew that these social media sites are stealing your information and selling it out, why would you even bother being on there?
I do not go on Facebook, as you know. I mean, I just don't. And we're doing stuff on YouTube, but YouTube has been censoring. But
well, the only reason I'm even on Facebook is because I use it to promote the radio show.
Well, I know.
And
it is.
I'm on. We have the YouTube channel because I post the shows on afterwards.
Yes, we do.
So if you guys want to listen to this again, go on our YouTube channel.
That's right.
But I don't put any personal information on there. I don't know why anybody would bother.
No.
But I'm pretty sure that Facebook, with Zuckerberg's connections that he has, they're pretty. All it takes is your email address, and they're probably into every bit of information that you have. I mean, they are like Big Brother.
Right. And the transhumanism today is that, like, they're trying to, and this is a whole thing, Nick, that, and John, that they've told people that you need to tell people what you're doing every 5 minutes, and you need approval. Like you're talking to like a mirror on the wall.
Hold on. Hold on 1 second, Wendy. Hold on 1 second.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had another phone call coming in from. Did we drop John, by the way?
No, he just dropped. I was waiting for him to probably call you like he usually does.
Yeah, because that's what.
Okay.
Because he did, but I missed his call.
Okay, that's too funny. That's just too funny. But you know what I'm saying? That they want this social approval because they don't want people to think for themselves. And it's a problem.
Hello?
Okay, John, we got you back.
Okay. As soon as Nick said something, I was disconnected. Were you guys disconnected too?
No, we were on.
Oh, just dropped.
Oh. Okay. Well, Nick was saying something rather profound at the moment, that you may not want to contribute to some of these programs and outlets on the internet.
And what I said too, John, is that they've made it so that all the young people and so many of the people that they've made it like you're talking to a mirror on the wall, that you have to have their approval. You need to ask, you need to tell them every 5 minutes what you're doing. What do you think of my shirt? What do you think of this? Like they're looking for approvals because they don't want to think for themselves.
Yeah, it sort of reminds me of the times not so long ago when I'd be on the street wearing my white shirt and some guy yells out of an automobile, "Today you should be wearing a blue shirt," because some gang has an agreement for that turf, I guess, on that day. And the next day you wear a red shirt. Yeah.
Jeez. But I think the transhumanism, also too, the book, the movie Blade Runner Part 2 definitely deals with the big time of transhumanism. I have to go back and see this a couple more times and watch this. But it's I think so too. I think that the story of the Nazis, of Hitler, that he did not die in any bunker. He was never killed in any bunker. He had gotten out. And I think that there's major stories with this, and that this is coming. This is going to come to a forefront on a lot of levels.
Well, I think it's a lot of these globalist idea of advancing technology so far that they won't never ever die.
Right.
I mean, there's been stories about
the control.
It.
Right.
Yeah, and they'll just transfer their consciousness into a metallic being and and so on and so on. It's like, hey, guess what? That doesn't work that way. I'm pretty sure they're trying to work in that technology, but guess what? David Rockefeller was too late, so he's not going to make it. But I do notice that the globalists do tend to live a lot longer than a lot of other people do.
Well, they have the best medical care you can imagine.
Yeah, they're not on Obamacare, are they?
Oh God, Obamacare.
They're not dealing with the VA. They're not dealing with the crappy grocery stores that serve you substandard food, unless you grow your own in your yard and everything.
Right.
And this is what people, I think, really need to do, is they need to get away from thinking that they're provided for where I live now, it's absolutely amazing what they do there. It's even the big farms that are around where I live, they still have their own little farms for themselves where they grow their own food. The only problem that I have with that is the fact that they still spray Roundup all over the place.
Oh,
my God.
Yeah, and I'm just like going, do you guys know what you're doing? And like, oh yeah, we're trying to kill the weeds and stuff out of our garden. Like, okay, are you retarded or are you just not paying attention or something? Let me explain. As soon as I tried to explain to them what the company that makes it and what Roundup is, their eyes glaze over and they're like, yeah, okay, yeah, but I still want to kill the grass.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my God.
Oh my God. Yeah, they can't just pull it and look, yay,
no one, which is what I do, which I think my neighbors think I'm kind of odd because I have to go outside and start yanking the weeds out of my garden now. Because I'm not going to spray weed killer all over my yard.
Of course not. Of course not.
Now, a little earlier, you were sort of mentioning something about the elite live a little bit longer than the rest of us. Well, back in 1969, when my wife and I took a tour of the Hawaiian Islands, my wife had a medical problem, and so our tour guide took us to this resort that was run by the Rockefellers. You never hear about it. It's never publicized. It happened to be on the Big Island. As far as I know, the lava did not cover over it. But it was just like something almost out of science fiction. Very much like the Rockefeller Center in New York. I think they had their own air purifier systems and everything for the housing. They had their own secluded bay. They had their own emergency medical staff there, which is the only place that was accessible on the island for us. so that's why the tour guides took us there. But this is not normally accessible to the public, and this is how the very well-to-do elitists live, and we're completely kept out of that circle. And this is true, I think, at resorts throughout the nation, whether it's Bohemian Grove or some other place. We basically will, unless some fluke happens, we will never gain access to these facilities where people are treated with so much more care, so that
right.
they will
I think
enhance their longevity.
I think that's why you got to take vitamins, John, and do a little bit of exercise, and make a few meals during the week. That's not, that they're very healthy. Yeah.
Well, yeah, just eat right. I mean, that's not even back in the 1930s and 40s when Max Gerson was doing his diet.
Right.
He was curing people out of cancer based on a diet that worked, and of course he got run over by the big pharma and the Senate of the U.S. at the time. But it's like what is it going to take? Stop eating McDonald's, by the way, which is crap. Stop eating fast food, which is all crap. I mean, unless you have no other choice and you're starving to death, stop eating that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, even dandelions have a use. I mean, they've already proven that. So don't just chuck the weeds because it makes your lawn look ugly. I mean, they tear up mine pretty good. But, I'm not going to get rid of them. I'm not going to go out there and spray Roundup all over them just because I don't like dandelions on my lawn.
Yeah, I've noticed that a lot of animals eat the dandelions.
Yeah.
Why would you want to destroy a food that provides a healthy diet for friendly animals?
Well, not just the friendly animals, but apparently it's pretty good for a lot of other things too that people don't realize. But the weed killing industry has convinced people that these things are ugly on your lawn, and you need to get rid of them. So buy our product, poison your water supply, and drink up while you're at it. Because now you don't have any of these little yellow flowers all over your lawn.
Yeah, but you go in your hardware store this weekend, and what will be 10 feet away from the entrance is this huge display for
Roundup. Yep. Yeah. Every single Home Depot has it. Every one of them. They don't even just have the buckets of the stuff. They have the actual sprayers you can buy with it, too. And so it's like they're encouraging you to put this up. Oh, by the way, in case anybody didn't realize, Monsanto, which makes Roundup, is also the makers of Agent Orange, which was also a defoliant which killed a whole bunch of trees and plants and stuff in Vietnam, and they sprayed it all over our troops, and they pretty much, for the most part, I want to say 95% of them got cancer and died, and now they're selling this stuff to you and saying, spray this on your grass because it'll make your lawn look better if you don't want like weeds and stuff on it. So they're basically selling you the same poison that they sprayed all over our troops in Vietnam and the Vietnamese people and gave them like incurable cancers.
Yeah. And gave them round. It's so many elements you can't.
I mean, they killed people. They killed our troops. They killed people in Vietnam with this stuff. And now they're selling it at Home Depot. And people are buying it. And it's just like, where is the disconnect in people's heads about this? And this is the same company that makes those GMO food products like corn and soy, which is really huge where I live. And they're making them so that they're Roundup ready. The Roundup won't kill them. It's like, okay, well, what is it in the plants that's not making them die from Roundup?
Yeah. And
they won't tell you. No. But, it can't be good. There's been no real long-term studies on it, on what the after effects of the GMOs are. And yet people are still buying this stuff even the Amish people where I live are buying this stuff and spraying it around, saying, "Nah, it's really good. It gets rid of the grass." It's like, do you have any idea what glyphosates do to people? Let me give you a laundry list of people from who served in Vietnam who got sprayed with this stuff, and you can't talk to them because they're all sitting in the ground right now, or laying in the ground
lying down.
Yeah.
God.
So, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous that this company is allowed to continue on with its stuff and pretend that it's beneficial for anybody, and we can backtrack our conversation as much as you want to, and we can just it's just like, you really do want to like take some of these people out.
Our distant cousins across the pond seem to be taking a different view towards Roundup and the GMOs and everything else.
Yeah, but are they getting this? Are they getting the correct information about it?
Well,
I mean, are they against it or for it?
They're very much against it.
Oh yeah. You're right. Yeah, I mean, imagine like all those cotton farmers in India who are committing suicide because the Monsanto's cotton seeds didn't produce enough. I think it was France that banned GMO, and there was another country out there that banned GMO, and yet here, America, we're supposed to be the leadership of the world, and we still got that stuff growing.
Yeah. And there has to be a re-education. Now, Trump, to his credit, is sticking to his guns by remaining against the Paris Accord, which is promoting climate control but
no, it wasn't. It wasn't promoting climate control or climate change or any of that. It was a set of regulations on every country to reduce their emissions that was supposed to be affecting climate change. And the bottom end of that one was the United States got put into a hole that we would never be able to get out of. And Donald Trump was finally the guy who turned around and said, "Hey, look, we're not getting screwed anymore."
I commend the president for saying that we're not taking billion-dollar losses and for billions and for this is crazy. That's not free trade, and we're not doing it.
Well, look at California. California actually enacted cap and trade, which, if anybody doesn't know what that is, that was the carbon credit trading scam that went on. That Al Gore's really bent out of shape, that he didn't get to make billions of dollars off of.
Right.
If your company spewed out a certain amount of CO2, then you had to have a certain amount of carbon credits.
Yeah.
And then if you had any left over, you could sell them off to some other company.
It was unbelievable.
It's ridiculous.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I wonder where all the money from that revenue is actually going.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
California actually put that into place. They made it a law. And how many businesses are bailing out of California right now? How many people are bailing out of California right now?
Nick, the industry, the taxes, the corruption in California.
Oh, it's stupid.
It's outrageous. I mean, unless you've owned property here for so many years, you can't live here. California is not a place for people to live. You can't live here.
Somebody had put this very succinctly, and I'm going to quote them, even though I can't tell you who they were.
That's all right.
Somebody in the state legislature had said, California is a place where you have to be extremely rich or you have to be homeless if you want to live here. Okay, everybody in the middle class is moving out. And, guess what one of the planks of communism is? Get rid of the middle class.
The bourgeoisie, yeah.
Yep, get rid of the middle class. And that's exactly what's happening in California. And if this keeps happening, all these idiots who keep voting for this communistic ideal society, who keep moving out and are moving into places like Texas and other parts of the country, they're going to vote for more communism. And even though they said, I moved out of California because I couldn't afford to live there anymore because it was so bad, it's like, well, why are you still voting in the same for everybody in the same direction that you just moved out of there for? To me, and this is my personal opinion, it's part of the takeover of the country. This is what Joe McCarthy was warning us about. Yeah. They're not moving out of there because they have to. They're moving out of there because they want to, because they want to start changing the rest of the country.
Oh, I agree. California is a test site for the New World Order. Absolutely. I would, hands down.
Are you kidding? Yeah. I mean, California is absolutely. But, you know, you got people who are out there like, dude, did you see the wave? I just totally ripped that curl. It's like, yeah, so what? Did you see the fact that you ripping that curl just cost you $100? No, but I just ripped a curl, so it's like, oh my God, just kill me now. It's one of the reasons I got out of here, because I could not talk to anybody in California about trying to figure out what the New World Order is doing here.
All right, guys, we'll be back next week with Deborah Tavares. It's going to be a barn burner. I want to thank our guest, Jordon Maxwell. Check out his website, thejordanmaxwellshow.com, jordanmaxwellshow.com. Thank my co-host, Nick Pearson, and Mr. Richard Kane, our producer. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. John, Bob, everybody's listening. Thank you so much. We'll be back next week with Deborah Tavares. Thank you so much, and God bless.
All right, see y'all later.